Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Are parasites robbing you of the best performance from your cattle? We'll have insights on this animal health challenge and talk about the best ways to get season-long control of parasites next.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. For cattlemen and women, job one is protecting the health of their animals. Unfortunately, one of the costly threats to the health and performance of cattle is unseen and often undetected. Internal parasites can rob an animal of its health and deliver a hard hit to the bottom line for cattle producers. And once parasites do their damage, many animals never recover enough to reach their full genetic potential. So today, we're going to focus our time on this critical animal health issue, and we'll talk about some of the tactics and weapons producers can use in the fight against parasites. Joining me now is a panel of experts from Merial. With us, we have Dr. Mark Campbell with Large Animal Veterinary Services for Merial in Oklahoma. Dr. Campbell, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Kevin. Before I talk about myself, I'd like to say hi to my family back in Pawnee, Oklahoma. First of all, my beautiful wife, Lacey. She's got her hands full with my three kids. My big boy, Colt, and my twin little girls, Della Ruth and Frances Faye Campbell.
You'll have to bring them the next time.
Yeah, I don't know. They'd have this place torn up. But grew up in Alva, Oklahoma, up in northwest Oklahoma. Went to vet school in graduated from 2001 from Oklahoma State. Go Pokes. Then worked in Hennessy a year.
Okay.
And bought a clinic in Pawnee, Oklahoma, Pawnee Vet Hospital, and started with Merial 2011. So I've been with them about 4 years. I've been running cattle for almost 20 years. Well, over 20 years. Me and the bank have been partners on cattle for about 20 years. So, and now I'm here on TV with you good people. I think I've done pretty well from a boy from Oklahoma.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. And also with Merial and the Large Animal Vet Services is Tony Moravec. You hail from Nebraska, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. Go Big Red. Born and raised on a beef and grain operation in east central Nebraska. I went to the University of Nebraska for my undergraduate degree and then to K-State to vet school. Was in a mixed animal practice in Illinois and then Nebraska. And coming up on 9 years, I've been with Merial. I've lived everywhere between Tennessee and Oregon. Found myself back in Nebraska now, just half hour away from the home operation with my wife, Erica, and she's at home as well with our kids, Wyatt, Macy, Quinn, Levi, and Nate. Wow. She's got her hands really full. But it's great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. We're glad to have you. And in addition to the Merial team, of course, we have a cow-calf operator from South Dakota, Brent Mason from Mason Knox Ranch. Brent, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Kevin. Our ranch was homesteaded in 1911. Currently, my wife Carmen and I and my sister and her husband, Bob and Darla Knox, own and operate a cow-calf operation there, as well as a beef replacement heifer operation and a grain farming operation in east central South Dakota.
Outstanding. Well, we're sure glad to have you all. And let's get started with a few basics as we get into the issue of internal parasites. Dr. Campbell, I want to start the discussion with you. Why is it important for producers to deworm cattle?
Well, Kevin, it's one of the most important practices they can incorporate in their operation because basically it makes all their other endeavors look better. Makes their grass more efficient, their feeding more efficient, their mineral program more efficient, their vaccines work better. And basically it's one of the most profitable management decisions they can do. It's not a should do or a might do. As far as I'm concerned, it's a must do.
You mentioned economics. Tony, I'd be interested, what is the overall economic impact in your estimate of internal parasites?
It's pretty significant, Kevin. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest things you can do to add to your bottom line. Iowa State recently did a study looking at that economic impact, and they found that upwards of $201 per head of additional income that you could derive from deworming, and a lot of that comes from increased and improved reproductive efficiency. That's significant. That's not a lot of direct savings or costs that you can correlate and pin out and pencil out, but it really does add to the bottom line significantly.
So I've always heard people say that there are some regional differences, however, and what would you say about that?
Well, the parasite threat is consistent no matter where you live. In the southeast, in the high mountain area, you're going to have a consistent threat of parasites. The impact's going to be a little bit different though. If you're fortunate and have a lot of feed, an abundance of feed, you can feed your way through a worm problem. There's still going to have some erosion and impact on the bottom line, but if you have a feed problem, you can't worm your way out of that. The worms will have their way with you. So if you're in, say, the southeast where there's abundance of feed and cattle or belly deep in grass, they're still going to have parasites and have an impact. But say if you're in the high mountain country of eastern Montana, parasites are not as big of an issue, but feed's a big issue. And if you're in a drought situation, it's a real issue, even if you have a couple parasites.
So Dr. Campbell, you said this is not an optional practice in your opinion, but do you think that there are producers who don't recognize this need or maybe not as concerned as you'd like them to be about this?
Some of them are, but probably the majority of them aren't as concerned as they should be because they look out their pasture, you know, like Tony was talking about, the cows are belly deep in grass, they look good. Cows look good, the calves look good. But they can't see the subclinical effects of parasites. It's an unseen situation where they're just not at the productivity of those cattle all the time. So
I know timing is a critical issue, and what would you tell our viewers about what we need to understand in terms of overall life cycle of these parasites?
that is something they need to understand because cows are picking up parasites when they're grazing. If they're out grazing, they're picking up parasites. When you're drinking coffee in the morning, they're picking up parasites. When you're cutting hay, they're picking up parasites. It's happening the whole time they're grazing. As long as that ground temperature is above 50 degrees, they're picking up parasites.
Brent, I would ask you from a cow-calf perspective, I mean, what effects do parasites have out in the pasture?
Well, Kevin, the parasites will overload a pasture. With that said, as the cows graze, they get overloaded and loaded with parasites, and that's very detrimental to their weight gains and their reproductive cycles. It's a very detrimental thing.
And it's going to vary where you're at geographically as the grass comes in, especially as we come into the springtime. Where Brent's at in South Dakota, he doesn't have a lot of grass on the ground right yet, but there's parts of South Texas where they do. And so we do have a nice tool online called the Digital Dewormer. If they were to go to the longrangelook.com, they can click and see where exactly they're at geographically to figure out when the best time is to deworm these cattle and get the best bang for their buck.
That's a great resource. And we're going to continue with this discussion, but we have a video segment that provides some insight on how parasites are active in pastures. Let's have a look.
To break this cycle of parasite infection and reinfection, it takes about 100 days of continuous parasite control. Thanks to the unique Theraphase technology, a single spring treatment with long range controls parasites for up to 100 to 150 days. When treated for that long, the herd functions like a filter for parasites. As cattle graze, they pick up infective larvae, which are then killed when exposed to long range. Those larvae never develop into adults, so the number of parasite eggs being shed back onto the pasture starts to drop. Over the course of 100 to 150 days, this effect can dramatically decrease levels of infective larvae on the pasture, and that can add up to real performance benefits for your herd.
Great video. Dr. Moravec, I would ask you, what role should a veterinarian play in helping producers map out an overall parasite management program?
Well, if producers aren't utilizing their veterinarian, they need to for their general herd health protocols, including parasite control. There's new parasite control products on the market that are prescription only, and so it's important to have that relationship in place with your veterinarian. And really, anytime you spend money with your veterinarian, you're going to be making way more money, and because he's going to be putting you light years ahead in terms of your production practices and keeping those cattle healthy and protected from disease and parasites. So veterinarian's invaluable, but I'm kind of biased as
Engage with your veterinarian is the message, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks for that advice. Now, if you'd like more information about this topic, you can visit the website, thelongrangelook.com. And of course, you can always go to cattlemen.org for video replays of our show and for more information as well. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll learn more about the cost of parasites and share the most effective strategies to gain season-long control over parasites. Stay with us. We'll have more right after this.
Long range, huh? Says here in a weight gain trial of calves on cows, parasite control with long range outperforms Cydectin and Safeguard dewormers combined by as much as an extra 40 pounds per head. I wonder what that'd feel like.
Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage such as granulomas and necrosis can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You have a lot to gain with long range.
What does it mean to be dependable? It means you do what you say you'll do time and time again. Because performance isn't optional, and your task is essential. For over 95 years, we have proven ourselves to be the most dependable choice. That's why the cattlemen of this great nation trust Ritchie to provide fresh water on demand. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
Welcome back to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, as we hear from the animal health experts at Merial, as well as Brent Mason, a cow-calf producer from South Dakota. You know, we've been talking about parasite control, and I would ask you, Dr. Campbell, tell us about some products available for deworming cattle.
Well, Kevin, in January 2013, Merial launched a product called Long Range. It revolutionized the deworming industry. It's the first product of its kind that can last 100 to 150 days, depending on the species of parasites. You know, our other dewormers are great that we've had in the past. They're good dewormers, and they still have their place in the market. But with long range, it just lasts a lot longer. That's why, you know, we get the long range. So, but it does use a new process called Theraphase. Oh. And that's how it allows it to last for 100, 150 days, so a small calf won't outgrow the dosage in a short amount of time.
As a matter of fact, we have a video that provides additional insight on long range and how it works. Let's take a look.
Parasite control is one of the most important herd management decisions you make each season. Parasites can negatively impact the immune system and reduce appetite and nutritional efficiency. This leads to reduced weaning weights, lower conception rates, altered carcass composition, and decreased milk production. And that can have a significant impact on your operation's bottom line. In fact, according to a study by Iowa State, parasite control can make a difference of as much as $201 per head in break-even costs. This includes improved reproduction and earlier calving. The problem with conventional dewormers is that they only last a short time, requiring multiple treatments for season-long control. There's never been a product that controlled parasites all season long in a single convenient dose. Until now. Long Range is the first extended-release injection for parasite control. Thanks to its unique Theraphase technology, the product is released into the bloodstream over an extended period of time, so a single treatment with Long Range controls parasites for up to 100 to 150 days. That means that with one spring treatment, you get the benefit of multiple strategically timed treatments throughout the grazing season, but without the additional stress and labor caused by repeated applications. By controlling parasites all season long, Long Range can help you get more profit out of your pasture. More efficient average daily gains, early calving, and earlier weight gains are all possible with better parasite control. In studies, calves treated with Long Range gained an average of more than 10% of their baseline body weight versus control calves. In separate studies, cattle gained 10 to 90 pounds more than control cattle. And in trials of animals with sarcoptic mange, cattle treated with Long Range gained 9 to 55 pounds more. Plus, with Long Range, you get all these performance benefits with less labor, less stress, and without the shrink caused by multiple handlings. Of all the animal health practices used to increase production, treating beef cattle for parasites gives producers the greatest economic return. And only Long Range gives you 100 to 150 days of parasite protection with one easy-to-administer injection of 1 milliliter per 110 pounds of body weight. To get the same level of control with conventional dewormers, you'd need 3 or more applications. When you add up the product costs, labor, handling stress, and shrink, one dose of Long Range makes a lot of economic sense. It's all the body condition, reproduction, and weaning weight benefits of a strategic deworming program in a single spring treatment. And that's what makes Long Range worth the investment.
That's a great overview of the product. And Dr. Moravec, I'd just ask you, how exactly does Long Range work?
Well, it works like nothing else in the industry. Not even the human health industry can claim to have a product that works quite like Long Range. The magic of Long Range, obviously the active ingredient is epinomectin. It's a very efficacious parasiticide, kills worms in great fashion. But what's in there that makes it work so well is called Theraphase. And Theraphase is the liquid polymer or carrier that when you inject it under the skin, that polymer mixes with the fluids under the skin and it creates a gel-like matrix. And that it's a non-reactive, non-inflammatory injection, doesn't cause a big swelling or lump or bump. And it just sits there and it holds pat for about 50 to 70 days, and during that time releases that active ingredient over that course of time. Then at about day 50 or 70, it begins to break down into carbon dioxide and water, and that Theraphase disappears. And when it disappears, it releases a second wave of active ingredient that takes it on out to 150 days. So instead of using a bolus or an implant to deliver the active ingredient for that long period of time, we're able to use a liquid polymer, that Theraphase polymer, that disappears. And it's really revolutionized the way that we're approaching these cattle going out on grass.
That is pretty revolutionary. And I guess the question I have, and probably a lot of our viewers have, Dr. Campbell, is how does it stack up against competitive products?
Well, Kevin, there's no comparison. Long Range lasts 100 to 150 days, but that doesn't matter to you if you don't know how long your other products last. You know, your conventional dewormers, especially your injectable and your pour-on dewormers, last about 30 days on most species of parasites. So Long Range lasts about 4 to 5 times longer than any other product on the market. Now, then you have your white dewormers. They're more of a purge dewormer. So they go in there, do their job, and then they're gone rather quickly. So they lack persistency. And as I said before, they're great dewormers. All the dewormers we have on the market are good, efficacious dewormers, just that Long Range lasts so much longer.
So are there other dewormers that have the same formulation as Long Range?
Yes. Merial actually has a pour-on called Eprinex pour-on that has the active ingredient epinomectin, and that's one of the reasons we picked epinomectin for Long Range, because it's such an efficacious chemical.
But there's nothing out there that has the Theraphase technology, that liquid polymer technology. You won't find it in any other product.
Good point, Tony.
Yeah.
So I'd ask you to follow up on that, Tony. What, from a process standpoint, when's the right time to use that?
Well, that's a great question that we get asked all the time.
Yeah.
Mark and I spend the bulk of our time consulting veterinarians on when to use this product, and it really is going to vary on a lot of different things. As we mentioned earlier in the show, geographically speaking, where you're at depends a large amount on when you're going to use this product. As you're coming into grass, as the cattle are arriving on pasture, using it before they go out to pasture or just right as they get onto pasture is the best time, because you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck as a result. It's changing the way guys think about deworming their cattle, because instead of cleaning them up at the end, we're keeping them clean throughout the grazing season, and that's really cool.
Tell us how it works in South Dakota, Brent.
Kevin, we try and incorporate it. In our heifer program, we will put cedars in and track score the heifers and weigh all the heifers the first week of April. So we incorporate and use Long Range injectable at that time. A little bit later on our cows, as we're processing those cows to go to grass, we do it as we process. It's very simple to use at the same time you're doing other processing of the cattle.
We're going to talk a lot more about Long Range and about effective deworming programs when we return. Now, if you'd like to learn more, go to the website, thelongrangelook.com. Don't go away. We'll have more with our panel right after this.
Long range, huh? Says here in a weight gain trial of 15,000 stockers, parasite control with long range outperformed 5 other dewormers by an average of 28 pounds. Extra 28 pounds per head. Wonder what that'd feel like.
Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage such as granulomas and necrosis can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You have a lot to gain with long range.
The things we like about that gator is it's kind of a go-all, do-all machine. We load it up, we put it in some of the dirty jobs that we can match with it. It helps us clean pens. We'll use that to haul anything out of the pens that we need to and go out and dump it. We also take it for feeding outside pastures. I am Rita Hunsucker, and I live for this.
Welcome back. We're focusing today on internal parasites in cattle and the best ways to combat them. We've talked about long range, the parasite life cycle, and pasture contamination. Now let's focus on the benefits of treating the cow. And Tony, I would just ask you, what benefits should our viewers expect from treating cows?
Well, the cow's the factory, right? It's the factory not only of the eggs that are getting shed onto the pasture and contaminating the pasture, but they're also the factory of the milk that's feeding that calf at side, and then also the factory of the calf that's coming next year. So really, to get the best bang for your buck, it makes good sense to treat the cow.
And on that note, we have another video to share with you. Here's some additional insight on the value of treating cows.
Parasite control is one of the most important herd management decisions you make each season. As you probably know, just a 10% improvement in weaned calf crop reduces the break-even by $16.82 per hundredweight and increases net income by $120 per pair. But if you're focusing your deworming protocol just on calves, parasites are literally sucking away at your profitability. Parasites in cows can negatively impact the immune system and reduce nutritional efficiency. This leads to lower body condition, which reduces conception rates and decreases milk production. This in turn can affect weaning weights in calves. That's why parasite control in the cow is essential to cow-calf profitability. As you know, you can't have a calf crop without calves. An open cow isn't just underperforming, she's actually costing you money. By managing for conception, you're making sure your cows are actually in the game. Cows that conceive late calve late, and that can decrease weaning weights by as much as 40 or more pounds. So managing for conception should not only target ways to get cows to breed back, but breed back as early as possible. Stabilizing weight is vital. This graph shows the energy needs for milk and body maintenance. Peak lactation comes approximately 85 days post-calving. There is a feed shortfall and loss of body energy stores that take place at that time. But this is also when a cow needs to cycle and settle to stay on schedule for the heaviest calf possible at weaning. Because of these energy shortfalls, however, cows are often losing weight at this point, and cows that are losing weight are 17% less likely to conceive at first service and 14% won't show heat at all. Parasite infections in cows reduce feed efficiency and appetite. Effective parasite control at this time can help stabilize the cow's weight so she has the energy to conceive. But that's hard to do because conventional dewormers only last 14 to 42 days. So even if you treated your cows with a conventional dewormer when you turned them out, it's no longer working at peak lactation. Only long range delivers season-long parasite control in a single dose. But earlier and better conception is only part of the story. Producers tend to focus on worms in their cattle, but it's the worms on your pasture that should really be the concern, especially the L3 larva phase. Initially, the only larvae on the grass are those that have overwintered in the soil. Without a host, these larvae will begin starving to death once the temperature and their metabolism starts to increase. This takes place before calves start grazing. But as cows eat the larvae, the parasite life cycle continues, and the cows load the pasture with new eggs. These eggs hatch and larvae build up on the pasture throughout the summer. These are the larvae that eventually infect the calves. Deworming cows results in fewer eggs being deposited on the pasture for a period of time, depending on the dewormer. The problem with conventional dewormers is that they only last a short time, So even if cows were dewormed in the spring, the dewormer has worn off by the time parasite larvae reach their heaviest concentration midsummer, which is also about the time calves start grazing. When you do a spring treatment of cows with long range, the cows act like a filter for the pasture because few overwintering juveniles that are ingested become adults. That means fewer eggs are shed onto the pasture to infect calves or to overwinter to infect cows and calves next season. So you'll see the benefits in 2 calf crops, this year's and next's. By controlling parasites all season, Long Range can help you get more profit out of your pasture. How much? In a study, cow-calf pairs were treated with Long Range or Cydectin plus Safeguard. After 104 days, steers treated with Long Range gained 40 pounds more than the Cydectin Safeguard group. At $2 per pound, that's $80 more per steer. Ready to see a difference in your herd's performance? Visit thelongrangelook.com to see how your current program stacks up to Long Range. Then talk to your veterinarian for prescribing information or call 1-888-637-4251. Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter, not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage, such as granulomas and necrosis, can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment.
The video does a really nice job of identifying some of the benefits we can expect from Long Range. What else would you add?
You know, I just want to reiterate what Dr. Tony said is the best place or the biggest bang for your buck is to deworm your cow, because she can pay you back 3 ways. First of all, raise a bigger calf or wean a bigger calf, conceive earlier or conceive on time. And if she doesn't conceive, they go to the sale barn. You know, she's bigger, she's in better body conditions, so she's going to bring more money at the sale barn.
So let's talk about reproductive efficiency for just a moment. And I guess I would ask you, Dr. Campbell, what have producers told you about the impact Long Range has had on reproductive efficiency?
Oh, Kevin, you don't have time to hear all of them. But you know, basically the concept is a cow in better body condition will breed better or breed back earlier. A heifer in better body condition will breed more effectively.
Now that's a Merial guy talking, Brent, so I want to ask you, from a producer standpoint, what have you seen?
In our parasite control study we did a year ago on a large group of heifers, and I'm kind of a numbers guy, so we really tracked it. We've seen a 3% increase in conception rate on the heifers that we used Long Range on versus the control group.
That's a real benefit.
And it's going to vary where you're at, right?
Yeah.
So if your benchmark's 80%, you got a bigger window
Sure.
to improve.
That's right.
Whereas if you're operating at a 95, 96%, the opportunity is, as Dr. Mark said, is to get them to conceive earlier.
But 2 or 3% is still real value.
Real
isn't it?
numbers on this cattle market, yes.
You know, we had several producers send in a few questions prior to the show, and I'm told we have time for one of those. Jim from Kansas asked us, I don't keep my cattle on grass for 150 days. Should I still use Long Range? What do you tell him, Dr. Moravec?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
This product more than pays for itself in as little as 40 days on grass, 30 days on grass. We've got studies that we've done looking at just how much added weight gain that these cattle have compared to positive controls. So these are 2 separate groups of cattle. One group's given Long Range, the other group is given whatever the heck else they're using, and they're more than going to get their money back.
Wow. That's great perspective. Thanks so much for your time and for your insight. Stay with us. We'll have more of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Saddle up and make your way to Denver, Colorado for the 2016 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting. This is your chance to stay up to date on beef industry trends and policies, meet with industry leadership and your fellow cattlemen and women. Plus, you'll get insights on hot topics at the issues forums. Mark your calendar for the 2016 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting, July 13th to the 16th in Denver. Find out more at beefusa.org.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Welcome back. Today, we're talking about the serious challenges posed by internal parasites in cattle. We've learned about parasite control and the importance of treating cows. Now, let's turn to the topic of resistance. Dr. Moravec, what can you tell us?
Well, regardless of the products that we use in our cattle, the opportunity for resistance is there every single time we use it. Whether it's up front, not giving an appropriate or high enough dose, that leads to head selection for resistance, or once it drops below therapeutic or killing levels, that residual leads to tail selection for resistance.
Resistance is an important topic for all of us in the cattle industry. Let's learn a little more about it in this video segment.
Because of the condition and health benefits, strategically deworming cows and calves has become a standard practice for most cattle operations. But with any deworming protocol come concerns about resistance. Resistance happens when parasites are no longer controlled by a specific deworming ingredient. But the presence of resistant parasites does not equal a resistance problem. At any time, there will be a few parasites with genes that make them resistant to a deworming product. Resistance is caused when these naturally resistant parasites increase in population and then breed with each other and shed eggs back onto the pasture. Long Range is the first extended release injection that gives you up to 150 days of parasite control in a single treatment. Its Theraphase formulation offers unique pharmacokinetics that allow Long Range to work for an extended period of time and then quickly leave the animal's system. The short amount of time at subtherapeutic concentrations helps ensure Long Range doesn't select for resistance any more than a single treatment with a conventional dewormer. Understanding the pharmacokinetics of your dewormer is important. A curve plots the presence of a deworming compound in the animal's body. Selection for resistance occurs at 2 points on the curve, at the peak or head, and at the tail as the drug's concentration tapers off below therapeutic levels. Between the head and the tail is the area under the curve, or total exposure. Parasites that survive the initial peak and exposure are said to be resistant to that level of endecticide. However, having a very high initial PK peak or longer exposure may still kill them. At the tail, products kill only very susceptible nematodes. A long tail, then, may actually favor the resistant parasites in the population by decreasing the number of very susceptible parasites, leaving a greater proportion of resistant parasites to meet and breed. In a study, long-acting products were shown to be effective against tough-to-kill parasites either by having a large area under the curve or having a very high initial peak. Long Range has both a high initial peak and a large area under the curve. How high? Let's compare it to Epronex. Considered to be one of the best anthelmintics in the macrocyclic lactone class, very few parasites survive its peak. The PK peak of Long Range is 2.5 times higher than Epronex. Long Range has another unique feature. In addition to a high initial peak and an extended duration to about 70 days, the Theraphase formulation delivers a second peak between 90 to 100 days. As it tapers off, it continues to stay above effective concentrations for up to 150 days, depending on parasite species. Conventional dewormers have persistency of 14 to 42 days. That's not long enough for season-long control. For longer periods, conventional dewormers can be used 3 times over the course of the season. Depending on the timing of application, this could equal 3 tails, while Long Range delivers 2 peaks with a single tail. Of all the animal health practices used to increase production, treating beef cattle for parasites gives producers the greatest economic return. With its high initial peak, long exposure, and fast withdrawal from the animal's system, Long Range helps you balance concerns about resistance with best management practices, which should include continuing to monitor resistance through a fecal egg count reduction program. And because Long Range controls parasites on the pasture, it also works as part of a refugia program where some cattle are left untreated. And only Long Range gives you up to 150 days of parasite protection with one easy-to-administer injection of 1 milliliter per 110 pounds of body weight. Talk to your Merial sales representative or veterinarian. Visit thelongrangelook.com for prescribing information or call 1-888-637-4251 to learn more. Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage, such as granulomas or necrosis, can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment.
We've talked several times about TheraPhase technology that you have in long range, and I would ask you, what does it mean in terms of the topic of resistance?
Well, TheraPhase is kind of our secret weapon, if you will, for tough-to-kill parasites. It's there to allow for that high dose up front with long range to kill those really tough parasites, but it allows the active ingredient to stay in the system long enough to wear down and burn out those tougher to kill parasites. So really, it's a blessing that we have it in this product.
And Dr. Campbell, during break, we were talking about some trial data that you've done specifically as it relates to calves on cows. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
We've done many studies, Kevin, but I'll just talk about one right now. It's done in Florida in 2013. It's 364 cows. We split them in half. One half, so 182 in each group. One group received Cydectin injectable and Safeguard oral, so they received a combination dewormer. The other group received long range and weighed the calves individually. After 104 days, the steers gained 40 pounds of additional weight against the competitors, and the heifers gained 13 pounds of additional weight. So I'd say
significant.
Our secret weapon's been working.
And what does that mean to producers?
More money in their pocket. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Now, I understand, Dr. Morvek, you've done some head-to-head trials with Dectomax. Is that right?
Yeah, some calves on cows trials, same as what, similar setup as the Florida trial, but
sure.
We saw those calves gain an additional nearly a quarter pound per head per day, 0.22 pounds per head per day. So every 5 days or so, those calves are gaining an extra pound, and that's real money in the pocket of the producer.
Do you see that on your ranch, Brent?
Yes, on our parasite control study we did a year ago, kind of overseen by Dr. Patterson and University of Missouri students, we did a study on 540 heifers. The first pasture we had 180 head, half with Dectomax, half with long range. There is a weight gain difference of 49 pounds coming out of pasture with a long range.
Wow.
The next pasture, pasture 2, we put 180 heifers, all with Dectomax. Pasture number 3, we put 180 heifers, all with long range. These heifers were all weighed individually going in and individually coming out on a 120-day trial, and we had over 80 pounds when they were not commingled, an 80-pound difference. On the pasture with long-range heifers, they come out weighing 1045 on the first week of August.
If you do the math on that, those cull heifers.
Yes, that's where it's really paying. If you figure your cull heifers and that extra weight, it's unbelievable the dollars you can generate.
Over $100 a head.
Yes.
That's really, really compelling. Well, thank you again, gentlemen, for your insights. We'll have more with our panel right after this. Stay with us.
Long range, huh? Says here in a weight gain trial of calves on cows, parasite control with long range outperforms Cydectin and Safeguard dewormers combined by as much as an extra 40 pounds per head. I wonder what that'd feel like.
Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage such as granulomas and necrosis can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You have a lot to gain with long range.
Every truck can tow a boat. Every truck can climb a hill. Every truck can haul a trailer. But not everyone can say they're the fastest growing truck brand in America. Guts, Glory, Ram.
Welcome back to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen as we get insights on the costly issue of internal parasites. So I would ask you guys, and Tony, let's start with you. What are you hearing from producers about their use out in the field of long range?
Well, if they've tried it, they're using it. We did a large-scale study looking at use in stocker or yearling cattle, 15,000 head in all, 18 sites, 9 different states, all different classes of cattle, different types of pasture, different protocols that they were using. So they were spending money already on dewormer, and they just agreed to use long range in half of the herd. And they saw, on average, it didn't matter where they were, what kind of cattle they were, what pastures, what products, there's always about 0.28 pounds per head per day difference. So that extra, almost third of a pound per day, means an extra pound every 3 days. Over 100 days, that's 28 pounds, and that's significant money in the back pocket of the producer.
I'd say. Brent, what would you add?
You know, we visited with quite a few of our heifer customers, and they've heard what Long Range has done for us last year, and it just makes absolute sense to use Long Range. You can't afford not to use Long Range in these cattle now.
And to follow up on that, let's turn to a video that shares another producer's experience using Long Range.
The biggest thing with Long Range that we've been impressed with, and that the main reason we're using it, is that we can use parasite control on these cows one time in the late spring. And it seemed like the parasite controls worked all throughout the entire season. We didn't have to bring those cows back in and handle them again. And we just noticed an increase in thriftiness and weight gain on those cattle. We're always very conscious here about the way we handle our animals, how we treat our animals. And we've noticed with Long Range that we don't have to handle those cows near as often. The parasite control is season long. It's better for the cattle to stay in their normal environment throughout the summer season, and that makes it better for the operation as a whole. California is a bit unique in that our winter rains and early spring rains are what drives our native grasses that puts the gain on our cattle. So it's very important that we watch the parasite load in early spring and summer, because that's when our worm loads are the highest in California. And that's the time of year when we use Long Range, and we've seen that it's worked on the cattle. We're in this business because we love it, but we're also in this business because we have to make a living, take care of our family. And we've noticed that on the cattle we've used it on, it's been a big economic benefit for us. Success for us is increasing the marketability of our product, whether it's our range bulls at our bull sale, our bred heifers that we sell to people throughout the West, our calves or yearlings that we sell to feedlot operators. And when we find a product that can help us move forward in all those directions, that's something we're going to integrate into our operation. And that's why I've been so happy with Long Range.
Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter, not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows, or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage such as granulomas and necrosis can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment.
Our viewers probably asking the obvious question, which is what's the cost or the investment of using this product versus a traditional dewormer? What would you tell them, Mark?
Yeah, Kevin, we always get that question, but of course it's going to cost more. You get what you pay for, but you got to remember Long Range is a premium product that lasts 4 to 5 times longer than any other product on the market.
Brent, is he speaking the truth?
Yes, he is. On the parasite control study we did, you know, on a 50-pound per head gain, on today's market, $1.50 a pound, that's $75 for about an $8 investment. I think it's very much worth your money.
Let's talk timing for a minute. Tony, when should a producer begin thinking about making a deworming decision?
Well, as we're coming into the spring as it pertains to Long Range, right now. You need to have that conversation with your veterinarian. It is a prescription product, so contact your veterinarian, your Merial sales representative, or go to our website, thelongrangelook.com, and click on the digital dewormer to find out what's going to work best in your area.
Thanks so much for sharing your experiences with us. To find out more about this and other topics related to animal health and parasites, visit the website, thelongrangelook.com. Don't go away, the cowboy poet Baxter Black is coming up next.
Long Range, huh? Says here in a weight gain trial of 15,000 stockers, parasite control with Long Range outperformed 5 other dewormers by an average of 28 pounds. Extra 28 pounds per head. Wonder what that'd feel like.
Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter, not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage such as granulomas and necrosis can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You have a lot to gain with Long Range.
Let's face it, you don't think a lot about your trailer hitch. You use it and forget it. We understand. But at B&W, we think about it. Short nights, the long hauls, the never-ending chores. The unthinkable. We think about it all, so you don't have to. B&W. Trusted.
If you're not using IMI Global's verification programs, you might as well set your money on fire. To give your wieners added value, no program begins without a traceable animal. Then add on BQA and other specialties, and you open up a whole new market for your calves. You might be thinking, the market's so good, why bother? You ever heard of making hay when the sun shines? You got a choice. Get in the game or visit IMIGlobal.com.
A ranch woman has a lot in common with a prisoner in solitary confinement. She's often starved for conversation. So, when a stranger shows up at the ranch, he's usually welcome company, which is why there is a grain of truth in the old joke that begins, "Did you hear the one about the farmer's wife and the traveling salesman?" Hilda found herself visiting at Molly's ranch home one afternoon. It was a visit that had to be planned, because Molly lived 40 miles from town. Well, just as they were pouring their second cup, they heard a knock at the door. Molly answered. She was nearly bowled over by a frayed-looking man pulling a vacuum cleaner behind him like a gut-shot varmint dragging his entrails. He spoke with the conviction of an evangelist down to his last parishioner. "Afternoon, ladies. Delighted to catch you all home. We're just passing through and saw your cars in the drive. Beautiful home, by the way. I see you collect antique kerosene lanterns. I happen to represent Take and Run, Chicago, Illinois, manufacturer of the finest vacuum cleaner in the free world today. The Suck It Up 2 with power nozzle and self-cleaning dander attachment. Nice wood stove you got there, ma'am, for the hard-to-pet dog." He talked without let-up for 45 minutes, while the ladies sat amazed at his stamina. They drew back in astonishment when he upended a plastic feed sack on Molly's shag carpet. Steel bowls, charcoal briquettes, chicken bones, sawdust, fingernail clippings, volcanic ash, and soybean meal cascaded into a pile. He spread it across the carpet with a sweep of his hand. "And to prove everything I said is the gospel truth, if this cleaner doesn't pick up every speck of this mess I've made, I'll get down on my hands and knees and lick it up myself." Molly leaned forward. "Well, you better get out your lip balm, sonny. I ain't got no electricity." This is Baxter Black from out there where Molly lived.
There are many great reasons to join NCBA, and that includes exclusive NCBA member discounts and benefits from some outstanding companies.
Hi, this is Kerry Bastine, president of Roper Apparel and Footwear, Stetson Apparel Boots, and Tin Hall. We are very proud sponsors of the NCBA. And for all new members signing up with the NCBA, you get 50% off your first purchase. And for all Go Forward members, you get 25% off 4 times a year. Go to urbanwesternwear.com, click on the NCBA specials, use your coupon code for your first 50% off, and come back to Urban Western Wear all year long and use your 25% coupons that you'll find in the National Cattlemen's newspaper.
Big discounts on boots, clothing, and Western apparel is just one of the many amazing deals you get as an NCBA member. Don't miss out. Join NCBA today and enjoy these exclusive member discounts. Find out more at beefusa.org.
Welcome back. As we wrap up our program today, I'd like to give each one of you an opportunity to share some final thoughts and to highlight what we've learned about parasite control today. Brent, let's start with you.
Well, before I give my final thoughts, I need to say hi to my 3 sons, Ty, Tori, and Tegan back home. And I would just encourage producers with the success we've had using long range on our ranch for the various reasons we talked about today. that you have to try long range and use it for the reasons we discussed.
Very good. Dr. Moravec, what would you add?
In using it, get the better bang for your buck in treating the cow. By treating that cow, you keep her clean through the grazing season, you impact her body condition, you impact that calf at side and better weaning weights, and then the calf inside with a better conception that's earlier for next year. So you get the best leverage, best bang for your buck by treating that cow in the spring.
Great takeaway. Final thoughts, Dr. Campbell?
You know, it's a product I love to talk about. I really enjoy it because by using long range, it really helps our operation become more profitable. So if you want to raise slicker, thicker cattle, then use long range. To learn more about it, longrangelook.com or contact your veterinarian, animal health supplier, or your local friendly Merial rep.
Very good. Thank you guys for coming to the show and sharing this great perspective and good wisdom with us. We appreciate that. And here's some important safety information as well.
Don't treat within 48 days of slaughter, not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage, such as granulomas and necrosis, can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment.
For additional information and video replays of stories from Merial and the rest of Cattlemen to Cattlemen, visit our website, cattlementocattlemen.org. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here again next week.